Hawkeye, the show that we have been waiting for a very long time, just dropped this week on Disney Plus. The first 2 episodes kind of starts with, I feel like the way the show starts, or I admire the way the MCU always tries to tie everything together. So we're introduced to the Kate Bishop character, her as a kid back in 2012 during the events of the first Avenger movie with the Chitauri coming in and the Avengers fighting them. And there's this particular scene where a young Kate Bishop, after witnessing her parents argue with each other, there's a crazy commotion in the house.
Alert. By the way,
I'm horrible about that. Spoiler alert for sure. If you've not seen Hawkeye, I advise you to not listen to what I've already said, which I already started. So I hope you didn't do that. And so the Chitauri is basically destroying their home, and Hawkeye saves this young Kate Bishop with an arrow. But her father, or at least we think her father, dies at the events, or through the events of what happened in 2012. And so that kind of fuels Kate Bishop to become not a hero. She's not a hero, but she has all these trophies for archery, inspiration, gymnastics, all this stuff. She has a black belt, her mom said, and so that kind of gives us an introduction to who she is and what her motivations are, and that's the beginning of what starts the first episode of the season, or of the show. And then we get episode 1, and then I know I'm rambling a lot, jumping in different places. Man. Episode 1 is more like, okay, who is Kate Bishop? There's a little Clint. Yeah, there's a little Clint in there at the end, but episode 1 is mainly focused on Kate Bishop. Episode 2 is where we kind of catch up more with Clint and kind of get where he fits after everything that happened after Endgame and stuff like that. And I like how we saw Clint in Endgame with the Ronin, when his Ronin stage, and we always wonder. I wondered when that would come back to haunt him. All the stuff he did to Avengers Endgame, and it seems like in this show we'll explore that more with the people that he not wrong, but were on their bad side during everything he did during Avengers Endgame with the tracksuit mafia, and things like that. But the first 2 episodes overall, I think, were kind of slower, but I feel like a lot of the Disney Plus shows have been like that, with the exception of Loki. I feel like Loki had the most. It was so abstract, and it kind of caught me off guard. And we talked about this before. I feel like Loki had the strongest opener, episode opener for sure. But I think this Hawkeye show is going to be dope. I think it's very grounded, which we had talked about before, Dane. And it's cool to see Hawkeye be the center. I know we got Kate Bishop, but it's cool to be Clint Barton's character, to see him be the center of a show, a product from the MCU, because he's always seen as an afterthought with the Iron Mans and Captain Americas that we have, and it's cool to see him finally in the spotlight to get his moment to shine. So, what'd you think so far the first 2 episodes?
I was impressed. I was very impressed because normally in situations like this, when we have it's not brand new source material, but we're looking at an origin story of a young Avenger. So normally in a situation like this, as it's been illustrated in great detail by Disney, is we get a very slow, drawn out, maybe 3 or 4 episodes in before we get any type of credible action. But they didn't hold any punches, literally. They got right into it. I was satisfied with the direction they went, not only because we get this super unlayered, half-hearted, introduction and motivation from a particular character, but it gets fleshed out in such a way that we can see the emotions captured by this particular person, Bishop, and how she's not only inspired by Clint and everything that he's done in his life up to this point, but she's at odds with herself because she wants to she wants to do everything she possibly can to look like, hey, I'm doing a good job. Can't you see can't you see, without discrediting the character and what's the word I'm looking for? Minimizing her to having daddy issues. That's a easy scapegoat, and nobody wants to do that because there's more layers to it than that. But she's obviously, there are foreshadowing events of her getting or seeking the approval of Clint because of her being, or he being, the inspiration behind who she is, turned out to be thus far. So I'm cool with it. Most surprisingly, though, you get to see a few people from all sorts of walks of life in terms of movies and stuff, or cinema, should I say? You got, I mean, I'm not sure that's where we're going, but since we're on the topic, Kate's mom, she was one of the she was in scary, not was in, she's currently in, you probably seen her in a few scary movies in the past, 10 or 15 years.
Wasn't she in Game of Thrones too? Wasn't she Alessandra?
The witch chick?
Yeah.
I don't
Was
know.
that her?
It looked like her. I don't think it's her, but I mean, if it's her, she rolling in money. She rolling in some big
Maybe I'm
money.
Tripping.
But I mean, if you've seen her before, you probably most notably know her from all the scary movies that she's been in, and even with she was in one of the Godzilla. Was it Godzilla or King Kong? Anyways, she's most known for the Conjuring series. She's been in that. Anytime I see her face, I always associate, Conjuring lady, somebody's about to be haunted by a ghost. So seeing her in this was kind of cool. And then seeing one of the Salamancas from Better Call Saul, or Breaking Bad, which is the spinoff of Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. But he's one of the main characters of the Salamanca cartel. So seeing him playing a role where I was hoping for him to be a good guy. Yeah, I was hoping for him to be a good guy, but he has bad written
just a
all
mustache,
over.
Man. All you gotta do is look at the stash.
Well, the stash. It wasn't the first clue for me. The stash. For a while, I was like, "It's kind of cool stash." Because I'm stash hesitant right now.
Yeah, I was joking about the stash.
Oh no, you're good. But aside from that, him obviously doing what he did, stabbing his uncle in the back, assuming, but then stealing the sword, like that was like, come on, bro. You ain't got no good intentions. You stealing the sword at an auction, bro. Like, but there's no honor among thieves anyways. Between those two events, and then the fact that when they were fencing when Jack and Kate were fencing, I was like, okay, he's pushing her buttons on purpose, just trying to get her to come in and make her look bad, trying to get her to make her look bad. And sure enough, he draws the flagrant foul, to which she's smart. She's very smart. She knows him. She reads people very well. Essentially, is what I've picked up so far. But
I think the mom is also hiding something as well.
Naive than a mug. I mean, she's a freaking owner of a security security
company.
Yeah,
got the swords in the crib.
She got a few skeletons in her closet.
I think, man, yeah, and let's just jump into some conspiracies here, or some things that I think is going down.
Favorite sport.
For one, that black market auction they held in the basement, where the Ronin sword was up for auction, the outfit was up for auction, and then the tracksuit mafia busts in there and they want the watch, and I'm like, dang, whose watch could that be? And that's from the Avengers compound as well. I think
just the watch.
I think it's Tony's watch. I think it's from Iron Man. And I don't know what kind of capabilities this watch can do. But as we saw in Endgame, and, this has a lot of connections to Endgame, that he made the watch, the GPS time travel thing.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's some kind of tech that can help go in quantum in the quantum realm.
Somebody has bad motives and intentions. Somebody has bad motives and intentions with it.
And what's crazy is we talk about how the MCU likes to tie things together. One thing that we've seen prevalent since Endgame is Tony's dead, but he's not dead.
Nah, there's always some stuff behind.
Right. in Far From Home, the glasses he left for Peter Parker.
He
That
left him
played a
with Quinn.
significant role. All the people he supposedly wronged in that
Mm-hmm.
movie, including Mysterio. What else have we seen? Shang-Chi. We saw um, the Ten Rings organization from Iron Man 3.
Mm-hmm.
Eternals. I don't know if there was any Iron Man references in Eternals. I can't quite remember.
Leader of the Avengers.
Um,
That's about it. I mean, it really wasn't Tony. I mean, essentially, he was.
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Black Widow. I can't. It's been a while since I've seen it, but the basis of the argument is Tony is still alive in that sense. Like the stuff he left behind, the technology we seen in the Spider-Man trailers, like some of the Stark tech. I don't know if you've seen in that
And the
trailer.
octopus.
Yes, the Stark
Yeah.
tech coming off of Spider-Man suit is on, on
That's
Doc
Doc
Ock, and I'm
Savage.
like, that's
Yeah.
like Tony is not dead. And when I
His
say Tony's
legacy,
not dead,
his legacy
yeah,
lives on, like in
and
huge parts.
right, and they've given us clues like, man, this dude and all the stuff that he's done is still prevalent in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think in this show for sure, I think that Watch is a Tony thing. I think I don't know exactly what it does, but it could be quantum realm kind of things. But that's a Tony item, in my opinion, and I think that's going to be another part of it. What else? The end of episode 2, you see that character at the very end, which seems like I don't know if
Head
it could be
honcho.
leader, head honcho, leader of the tracksuit mafia. I'm trying to think of any other things that jumped out to me, but I know that Watch one for sure jumped out to
Mm-hmm.
me, and of course the mom. I think the mom is kind of shady, but it's still kind of hard to see who is the. They always come out with a big bad. I don't know who that could possibly be, but like you mentioned, I like what they've done to connect certain things so far with what we've seen previously.
Okay. So, a few of my thoughts about the show so far. Conspiracies, if you will. When they talked about under the table black market, auction, first thing I thought about power broker. That was the first thing that came to mind for
Oh
me,
yeah,
and it was
yeah.
very power broker esque that it got robbed. Quote unquote, it got robbed as that they were in the middle of only auctioning the second or third item. The third item being whatever the hell was in that box or little chest or whatever. I can't remember what it was, but whatever they
The
had in the
chest
little
had the
chest.
suit.
Oh, the chest
And
had the suit. Okay.
the suit came open and Kate grabbed it,
Okay. I
and
don't
then
know why I
old boy
thought there was
grabbed the
something else in the
sword. Jack
chest.
grabbed the sword. Yeah.
Oh shoot. Oops. Okay. So scratch that. I don't think the mom has anything to do. I think the mom is just very naive. She's looking for love in all of the
Mm-hmm.
wrong places, not to quote a song in particular. But she seemed to be swept off her feet by the right guy. The right guy being Jack, this criminal, who's we're very certain he's got hands and he knows how to use a sword to fight. So he's got some he's got a troubled past. I mean, a homie obviously possibly killed his uncle. Call it what you want.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something that we need to know there. There's foreshadowing, especially with the way that he handled the little duel that he had with Kate.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, we have run into what one group of enemies that were wronged by Ronan. I think we probably will run into more. Now, the issue we're seeing here, and not the issue, the cool thing I think we're seeing here in layers is from the jump, the amount of grief or guilt that Clint was feeling during that stage play, that god awful stage play. Um, Now I'm sure once I
I
go
can
back for
do
the
this all day.
once I go back for the second viewing, I'll be able to pick out some things that weren't some things that were like, wait a minute, is that an egg, an Easter egg right there?
Mm-hmm.
But for me at least, he's having some trouble mentally in terms of just coming to
Yeah,
grips
for
about
sure.
everything that's taking place because you got what 4 or 5 good friends that you've done war with. Literally, you've
Yeah.
done intergalactic war with, and 2 of them have died since then. Yeah, two and a
Yeah.
half. Because I mean, Steve Rogers. I'm not sure what Steve is up to, his old self, but 2.5. I'm gonna say 2.5, and that half is for Steve. 2.5 have died. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure how that affects a superhero in that way, but it's something we haven't on the big screen, at least we haven't. It hasn't been explored in great detail, but I'm sure we're gonna go back and revisit that. But mentally, he's struggling on that end. Physically, he's either partially or completely lost the hearing in one of his ears, which they have done a very good job of making sure the viewer knows and understands that there is something physically
Mm-hmm.
going on with his ear because of the help of a hearing aid, which is cool. Um, a lot of people, um, a lot of people will be able to relate to that, and it's something that Disney or Marvel, in this sense, draws from realism. We know that there are plenty of ailments, there are plenty of circumstances, there are plenty of situations, um, there are plenty of health situations that people have, and for them to acknowledge not only that one, but you see the puppy had a one blind eye or one partially
Mm-hmm.
closed eye. For them to acknowledge that as well is kind of just lending itself to we are drawing inspiration from items or situations that are real. So it's a heads up to them, and shout out to them for doing that. Because I'm pretty sure that's a pretty remarkable thing to intentionally draw that up or put that out. Another thing,
Yeah.
I didn't know this. My wife told me this because of course, we were watching this. I didn't know that one of the Russell brothers, the daughter, she's one of the roles. She's
Mm-hmm.
Clint's
Clint's
daughter. Like
daughter.
I remember reading about it, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, what role was she have? And I
Yeah.
just anytime you see Russell,
And
it's
she's
like boom.
good too, man.
Yeah. She was acting the butt off, man. So
Yeah.
we're gonna see how that goes. I'm pretty sure she's gonna be pretty pissed once she finds out what her pops been up to. Like, really? Like
Yeah.
been out here mentoring somebody else. You could have been mentoring me. Like, I'm supposed to be, oh girl,
Yeah.
something. But anyways, 2 episodes, that's what I've drawn so far, but I gotta tell you, man, I don't know where they're gonna go with this in terms of how this plot can be more intense than what it is, but
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like a real threat other
Maybe
than Clinton has to get back to his home or get back to his family
right.
within 5 days or whatever. But it's just
5 days. Yeah.
yeah, so
And to piggyback off what you said about Clint having grief, just in
mhm.
general, he's been through a lot, right?
Yeah.
I had this tweet that I just started thinking before the episode dropped last night. I put Clint has had a low key crazy story arc in the MCU. Interested to see where they take it with this Hawkeye show. Then I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, I said my dude Clint got brainwashed by Loki, put on house arrest after Civil War, went rogue as Ronin during Endgame,
Mm-hmm.
lost Natasha. Now Yelena thinks he legit killed her after the Black Widow movie. Remember that post credit where old girl pops up and was
True.
like,
He lost
he
his
gonna
family
have to deal
too.
with her
He lost
and
his
his
family
family. Yeah,
for
that's
for
what I'm saying.
several
Like,
for several years, and then of course they came back. But
yeah,
so not only that, but obviously we know that there's mentally there's something that goes on after you. I mean, realistically, after you kill somebody, we've seen this detailed in so many different walks of life. Accumulation of bodies, or an accumulation of body count. The more and more people you kill, the more and more that does you mentally. I don't know how they're going to. I don't know how that's going to be detailed in this show, but I'm sure they're going to visit it somehow because of the fact he has wants no association with that particular. He hasn't taken ownership that hey, this is me, but he's mentioned so many times that this is dangerous. Any association with this costume is life
mm-hmm.
risking. So for him to even acknowledge that and not to associate with himself just lets me know, like, even somebody who knows it, somebody who runs into a burning building for a living, saving people, doesn't want any association with this image or this um, symbol of death and destruction. So I'm curious to see where it's going to lead. Oh, one other thing. Shout out to Clayton English, man. My dog from the 85 South show. So it's probably the second or third podcast that I started listening to religiously, aside from the Jenkins and Jones podcast, was the 85
Mm-hmm.
South show. And one of the pioneers, of course, along with Carlos Miller, DC Youngfly, Chico Bean, was Clayton
Mm-hmm.
English, and he has a pretty significant role in this show. So shout out to Clayton English, aka Sabado Domingo, for chasing the bag, man. Because I was like, wait a minute, is that? But they showed like him going on a little website looking at the role players. I was like, is that? Nah, that's not Clayton. And sure enough, when I heard of his, oh, that's definitely Clayton English. So it's gonna be pretty cool to see how my boy Grills has some more screen time.
Grills.
because that's not his only episode.
That part was pretty funny.
It's grills, man. He said, "I gotta stab
just like
you."
a black dude.
He said, "I gotta stab you. Gotta make it look real, though."
That was dope, man.
He said, "But you had fun, though, right?" He said,
"Yeah, I did." That was funny. Episodes 1 and 2 of Hawkeye streaming right now. Episode 3 next week. 6 episodes total, so we only got 4 more left. So the action's got to pick up like every episode. There
was a lot of action already, so
yeah,
man, like it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, gonna be crazy. Of course, we'll be here next week to talk about episode 3.